All right. Welcome, welcome. If you're joining us live on Evangelical-ish, I'm Ashley. I hear an echo tonight.
I think I got rid of it.
Okay, cool. I'm Ashley. Paul is here. Paul has had quite an adventure today. We're going to talk about it.
And I'm getting ready for quite an adventure.
Yeah, that's it. The adventure before the adventure. But yeah, welcome everybody. I see several folks starting to join us on YouTube and Facebook. Super glad you guys could be here tonight. While you're joining, feel free to share. Let somebody know that you are popping onto this live. We'd love to have as many people as possible join us tonight. Yeah, because there's so much going on. Hello.
Just a few things going on in the world these days, aren't there?
Yeah. Hi, Peter. Good to see you. And Dennis, it was great to talk with you all last week. We had such a cool time on our private Zoom after our live show last night. It was really fun.
We had a little bit. We had about, there's Dennis. Dennis, did you ever find the email with the link in it? We had about 25 people sign up, and we ended up having about 10 or so hang out with us.
I think 10 or 12, which, it's pretty good. Pretty good.
Kind of how things go.
For our first night. So if you're joining us on TikTok, Evangelical-ish or Unconventional Pastor Paul, welcome everyone. My name is Ashley. I am married to the Unconventional Pastor Paul, and I am filling in this summer. It's the Swear Engine Summer of Fun, we're calling it. So it's also hot. It's also crazy. There's a lot of things you could say to describe this summer.
I rode my bike today in 112 degree weather.
Wait. You mean yesterday? Because today you were laid up in bed on hyped up on drugs. So we'll talk about that.
Gladys is with us here. Yes, I had Gladys. 4 crowns replaced today. So I am crowned the king or queen of this event, whichever you want to choose.
So, okay. So let's just rewind the tape for a second. So last night you took your dentist, you did sedation dentistry today to just paint the complete picture. You took 2 Valiums last night before you went to bed.
Right before bed. Yep.
You took 3 this morning per the doctor's orders at 6:30 a.m. And then they gave you more stuff when you were sitting in the chair, right?
Then they gave me lots of good drugs in the chair.
So you had 4 crowns in 4 hours. I go to pick you up at noon today, and you were you could barely stand up, get you home, you hit the bed, I go back to work, and 5 hours later I come home and you're just barely waking up. So
they said don't sleep all afternoon or you're going to throw your sleep pattern off. So I was kind of bound and determined not to go to sleep, but whoops, I did it again.
On your phone.
But then you suggested I lay in the bed for a bit, and I'm like, that's probably not a bad idea.
Yeah.
And 2 minutes later, you were home from work saying, "Hey, are you up yet?"
Yeah. This is the maybe the subtitle of this week's episode is "This is your brain on drugs." This is Paul's brain on drugs. So apologies in advance, but also this could be pretty fun.
I could say some crazy shit today.
And get away with it. Although usually you do and you're not on drugs. So
the actual title of the episode is Paul's Going Down to Dixie.
Going on down to Dixie.
Devil went down to Dixie. He was looking for a soul to steal. That's me.
Yeah.
I'm going to go steal some souls.
Down. Yes, all afternoon, all I could think about was that song. The Devil Went Down to it's Devil Went Down to Georgia, not
Devil Went Down to Georgia, right?
Yeah. But that honestly, that was probably my favorite song. I was raised in the southern part of the US, and talk about getting the energy going. You play that song and the whole room lights up, the whole crowd lights up.
Yeah. So, right after they have Johnny Reb, some white kid in high school running with the Confederate flag around the field.
Okay, it was the 80s, and yes, that happened. I'm embarrassed to say. The school
and your school was the South, and their school was literally North.
That is correct.
High school.
You can anybody joining from Fort Smith, Arkansas, or anywhere around that area, you can testify to this. Growing up, the Southside High School, and there were only two schools in our town growing up, the South and the North. And the South school, our mascot was the Confederate soldier named Johnny Reb. And anytime our team would score, the Confederate soldier would wave the Confederate flag up and down, run up and down the sidelines, and chant, "The South shall rise tonight." It was very creepy. But as a kid, I did not realize that. And now I look back and I realize that it was. So lots of folks are jumping on TikTok. Thanks
to be there with you. I used to love the movie Porky's in the 80s. And now in the 20s, we're like, oh my God.
Oh, I was too young. Age difference, generational gap just happened. Yeah. I was too young to watch Porky's. But let's talk about your amazing road trip, because next time we're on this show together, you're going to be in like somewhere not California. Like you're hitting the road next week.
It's been so interesting because the Rocky, who we've had on the pod with us, and the group, the producers of 1946, the movie, which is their tagline is the mistranslation that shifted culture. It's a documentary about how the word homosexual was added to the English Bible in 1946, that there was no version of the Bible in all of history, in all the world, that had Romans 1, 1 Corinthians 6, 1 Timothy 1 saying homosexual. Before that, they all said sexual deviant or pederast, or some word denoting power imbalance in sexuality, which was very, very common in the cultures in which that was written. 1946, some men changed that word to homosexuality in the Revised Standard Version of the Bible. A young man challenged that. He sent a letter to the head of the committee and saying, hey, you have this wrong. This word is not homosexuality in the Bible. That's the wrong word. And the head of the committee said, oh, well, let us do some research and see if you're correct. And they came back and said, oh, you're right. This word, arsenokoitai, is not homosexual consenting same-gender relationships. It is power imbalance relationships, like a Roman emperor buying a boy from a family to use as a sexual toy. That's what the word is all about, not same-gender consenting couples. But unfortunately, we cannot make this change because of a contract with the publisher until 1961. So what happened between 1946 to 1961 is the NIV, the American Standard Bible, and the Living Bible all came into being, and they all used the RSV as their starting platform and built from that. And those three were the biggest selling Bibles. I think they're still the three selling biggest English versions of the Bible ever. And they ingrained God hates homosexuals into the fabric of American Christianity, all based on a mistranslation. In fact, the German word for consenting gay couples wasn't inserted into the German translations of the Christian Bible until 1983. So this is a new phenomenon, and the fact that we now have a political party using it as a way to wedge people apart and to demonize groups of people is horrific, and particularly in the South.
It's a quick commentary. Like, it is so stunning and shocking when I heard you were getting involved with this film, and it's like, oh, that's cool. What, I kind of hear things on the periphery, and then I went to see the film, and I went to see it again, and I went to see it a third time. It is like, are you freaking kidding me? When you are like, okay, so I was born in 1972, went to a conservative Southern Baptist church, parents who were not that conservative, but like we were just around that all the time. And gosh, talk about the things that you think have always been true and are just like, this is just the way it is. I had no idea. This is such breaking news. This whole film, the way it lays, like builds the case, it shows all the factual documentation, all this kind of stuff. So yeah, and spoiler alert, in case anyone is like going to watch it, 1946 is the first time this word was used, but it's so interesting to watch. But you're taking the movie on the road. You're going with a whole group of folks, and say more about where you're going. And if people are interested in stopping or joining you all somewhere along the road, how do they find out more about it?
Yeah. And by the way, Sherry Rappley just joined us. She recently gave to our GoFundMe for the trip. And I think I saw Peter Herzog here earlier. He gave to the trip. And yeah, so we initially, everybody always says, oh, you guys are funded by George Soros, because that's what Fox News tells them to say. And they always repeat dutifully everything Fox tells them to say. Well, I never met George Soros, and that check ain't arrived yet.
Yeah.
But no, we were looking for some funding from some big funders of, queer LGBTQ plus affirming groups. And that check, we're still waiting for it in the mail. And if you can write that check, let me know, and let's go for it. But instead, we decided to start doing GoFundMe and reach out to each of the individual locations that we're going to get, whatever they can give us. Get an Airbnb for the 6 of us who are on the trip. Make a meal chain and have different people say, okay, I'll take care of, we need this many meals while they're in the city. We'll take care of 2 of them, So we're still working through that. And if you have any of those resources, let us know as well. And if you can just give money, we need that also. And I'm terrible at asking for money. I hate to do it so much.
Oh my God, I love it.
I know you do. You're so good at it. I
love it.
So good at it. But so our trip is going to start in Southern California. And here's what we're going to do. We're putting education around the movie. So part of my job as unconventional Pastor Paul is I'm going to teach about the dangers of Christian nationalism and how there is no biblical standing for Christian nationalism whatsoever. In fact, all of the Bible says the opposite, that you cannot say I'm a Christian nationalist because God told me to be. Because if God did so, he would be going against, I use he because I'm talking to evangelicals, he would be going against the very principles his son taught nonstop on earth. Things like, I'm a Second Amendment fundamentalist for God. And Jesus said, oh, you know what? Those who live by the sword die by the sword. I have people all the time saying, I'm a unifier. I'm not going to say bad things about the Christian church. And Jesus said, I didn't come to bring peace. I came to bring a sword. I came to turn mother against brother. Because he was saying these historical echo chamber things you learned have to be broken down so you can really find out who you are and find a real connection to the Spirit of heaven. So we're traveling from, it's funny when I think about it, I feel like, I don't know if everybody ever read the Brother Andrew books where he would take Bibles behind the Iron Curtain. That's what it feels like. And it's like, okay, don't tell anybody, but we're going to Phoenix and then over to Frisco, Texas, just outside of Dallas, deep in Dixie, and then Houston, Texas, then Baton Rouge, and then really into the deep heart of it all, Pensacola, Florida, Jacksonville, Florida, Sarasota, Florida, then to Birmingham, Alabama, which could be scary, except our friend Beham Blue Dot, Lindsay, is there. Then to Memphis, Tennessee, then to a town that scares me to death, Springfield, Missouri, where I got kicked out of Evangel College, back up to Colorado Springs, Salt Lake City, and then Vegas, where our journey comes to an end.
Okay. In mental note, your Evangel College story is one you should tell sometime. Like that is worth, like, pull up a chair, sit down, and like just kind of relive that. By the way, is there still an Evangel College, or is it like turned into another university now?
It's Evangel University.
University. Okay. Yeah.
And I had a friend that I went to school there tell me that it's like blown up, everything Christian nationalist these days, they're very, 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 very well funded.
Well, speaking of Christian nationalism, so I think that's really cool that that's the part of the educational programming that you're doing while on this trip. If you haven't yet, folks who are listening, you can go download the last 2 episodes of Ish, because Paul and I go on a little journey of our, like, I always just kind of say it's like, we have been Where's Waldo of Christian nationalism for the last 10 years. Like every like sort of famous, like this critical person or that, that moment happened. And you and I are in the background somewhere going, like we were there, or we've met these people, or we were like and so we told
just
those
kept
stories.
Getting pulled into these circles and we had no idea what was going on.
And these stories. And now we're looking back going like, oh shit, that's what was happening all around us. So those were really the last 2 weeks were super fun episodes for us to
It reminds me of that Saturday Night Live skit with George Washington, where he's talking about how, we're going to not, we're fighting so we don't have to use the metric system. We're going to use the regular system. And everybody's like, yeah, that, and then the black guy on the show that I can't remember his name, he would say, and black people will have opportunity.
Yeah.
And then like Washington would put his hand on his shoulder and say, you asked about electricity. He's like, no, I did not. So he would never even respond to what happens to black people. So it's like Christian nationalism. Yes. And we're like there. Yeah. Love people and really make great things happen for poverty.
To like turn everything upside down and make the world a better place. And everyone's like,
then they would just
so sorry. How did you get in this room? I know. So anyway, okay. So Christian nationalism, it'll be on the road. If folks want to, I know you guys are being very conscientious about security and that sort of thing. And so how do people like get information about where your locations will be? Is it on the website, 1946 website?
No, you have to sign up. Sorry, there goes our dog. Gosh, I don't have it open right now, but Eventbrite. All the events are on Eventbrite.
Okay.
And you have to sign up for a free ticket.
Okay.
Before you, and you won't be told the location until the day before. So we're not putting out the locations in GoFundMe, because we really believe there are people that would want bad things to happen to us.
Do you know, this is like getting off track, but it like that kind of happened to us at a local restaurant.
It did.
A week ago Friday. And it really scared the tar out of me. And frankly, I now, like I've had particularly like Black women and then also LGBTQ friends of mine who will say things over the years, like depending on the way the election goes, I may move. I may be in Canada. I may be in Costa Rica. And I've always kind of been like, God, that seems like, you're fine. People say terrible things, but you're going to be safe. And then this thing happened to us a week ago Friday at a local establishment here in Fresno, California, which shall remain unnamed. And I felt the fear of God race down my spine. And then I was like, oh my God, this is what people have been talking about and feeling and saying to me. And I just feel a lot more sympathetic. And all this to say, I'm glad that the event locations are revealed like kind of last minute. I don't want to put it out there in the universe, that like something weird could happen, but it was wild what happened to us.
Well, I've been having to have this conversation internally quite a bit. Why do you do this? And I'm a history buff. I love history, particularly Civil War and World War II history. And I've often thought, when these types of events happen in history, these historically divisive events happened in history, would I have been at Little Rock Central High School on the steps beseeching God to not allow these Black kids to come into our school and ruin our wonderful utopian center for white kids? Or would I have been the ones fighting for the right of all children to be able to have the best education available? Would I be, sitting with the Black kids at the diner where they were not allowed to sit because of the color of their skin? Or would I have been somebody saying, well, take it easy, it's going to work out eventually. I know they're shooting them with fire hoses and sicking dogs on them out there, but those guys doing that, as one former president of ours said before, they're fine people. These people, they're fine people that are turning the hoses on those kids. So who am I to say they're wrong? And I just feel like this is my moment to say, I want history to note that this person I am, Paul Avery Ray Swearingen, all of the above, is not too proud of life. I don't hold life too precious that I'm not willing to put reputation and even physical harm on as a possibility if it means we're helping stop horrible things from happening in this country. And let me tell you, horrible things are happening. These Bibles in the classroom, 10 commandments on the wall, those are not godly acts that are bringing God to the people of this country. They are an attempt by really misled Christians to force Christianity onto people through civil law. And all of history shows any attempt to force religion as a civil code onto a people group does not go well and does not have a good ending. And so these are very scary things that are being proposed through Project 2025 and the Republican platform and all of that.
Hey, so I just want to say thank you to They Call Me BK for liking the live. I will admit to not exactly knowing what happens when someone does that, but I think it's a good thing. But yeah, if you're watching now, share this, and hopefully we'll get a few other folks to jump on and join us. So that I appreciate hearing you say that. I know you shared that with your email list yesterday, that this road trip for you is important on so many levels, and probably the deepest of which you just expressed, which is you want to be on the record in this era that we're living in, because you can look back on past eras and realize, like, God, there were so many people that weren't. It allowed the perpetuation of a whole bunch of bad stuff, and you're at the like fish or cut bait moment of your life. So that's what this road trip is all about. And sorry to like take a serious tone here, but it's I think for me, I know me, and it's one of the reasons why I'm so grateful to be teamed with you, Paul, is because I think that I'm the like, just keep going, try to bring everybody together. It's all okay. And I need to be alerted. I need to be kind of like jerked up, by the nape of my neck sometimes, of like, no, this is not okay. And you bring that into our household. And I'm really grateful for that.
Well, it's sad. It's sad for me, this man in this restaurant we were in the other night, he walked by scowling, and this happens to us sometimes because somebody we kind of recognize, that maybe we're all trying to figure out if we recognize each other. So I didn't think too much about it until he came and he stopped right by the table and he's looking at me, and then he moves around behind me, and I guess he says, "Is he okay?" Is that right?
He said,
"What's wrong with him?"
Okay, so first of all, guess what? They Call Me BK says Springfield, Missouri is their hometown, and they're going to meet you on Eventbrite and go to the event. So that's awesome.
I will be there, BK. Yes, and I can't wait to see you.
Springfield is a particularly sensitive place for Paul, so he needs all the love and energy and support there in Springfield.
The Mecca of the Assembly.
The Mecca, and maybe we'll get into that a little bit later. But so this is what happens at this restaurant, y'all. So we go in, kind of had a hard day. Paul's wearing Paul's favorite shoes, which happen to be a pair of black high-heeled open-toe boots. And Paul had told me
they are wonderful.
And you told me, like, I love these boots so much, I want to hug them. And that's when I knew you do, in fact, love these boots. So you're wearing your favorite boots. You're wearing like pants, t-shirt, shirt over that. You have your earrings on. You have your necklace on. You have your nails done. Your hair's kind of long. So it's like, not really sure, what the look is here. But, like maybe you don't look
could just
like
be a famous rock and roll singer.
You are either Mick Jagger or you're not. But this, you definitely didn't look like tech bro or like guy off a golf course, So
a bunch of them were there all wearing the exact same outfit, which is what I've always hated about male gendered clothing.
Yeah. So Hawaiian shirt, khaki short dudes sitting at the bar, and one is definitely putting him back. I can, because I'm looking at the bar. Paul's back is to the bar, so I'm like, we're over here on the wall. Here's the bar. I can watch these guys. So you must have caught this guy's attention when we walked in, because what, just sitting there, I don't, with your back to them, I don't know how they would have noticed anything, but all of a sudden I'm noticing this man is like turning around, staring, like almost falling off his bar stool, like getting like dramatic drunk, like, head turns. And so I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. It's kind of weird. And I officially see like, okay, I think maybe that's aimed at us. So then the guy gets up to go to the bathroom, and he's kind of like Paul was earlier today after being on Valium for his dental work. He's like stumbling a little bit and like kind of going slow past our table to go around the corner and go to the bathroom. And when he gets to our table, he turns and looks at Paul, like stumble, stare, dramatic. Whoa. And then like he like kind of huffs around the corner, goes to the bathroom, comes back, does the same thing in reverse. Now he's looking frontally at Paul, does this dramatic thing, sits on the bar stool, turns around and says, what's wrong with him? Like that, mouths it to me like a stage whisper, like probably 10, 15 feet away. And I was like, nothing. And then he thinks about it for a second. He turns away and he turns back around. He goes, well, I disagree. Like that, like all the, I don't know, venom he could possibly put into his drunken stage whisper. And so I was like, okay, like go back to your drink. I'm eating we had the corn appetizer, the elote corn. We were like, leave me alone. I'm eating my corn. So anyway, long story, just a little bit longer. When this guy gets up to leave, I think his buddy was kind of trying to balance him out and be like, hey, chill out. It's okay. Walks past the table and calls me a see you next Tuesday.
The C word.
I was like, the weirdest thing to me was the complete, like, there's so much hatred and like stuff being spewed from this man. And I could tell, like, I know he was drunk, and that's all it was, but it was like he was totally disconnected from any kind of like human feeling, or like he just was vapid and venomous. And it was shocking. I will admit to never having been in a situation like that.
We've been very privileged people all our lives.
Very privileged. And I've never been the subject of someone's total, well, I shouldn't say it that way. When I served as mayor, I probably was the subject of some people's like object hatred, but like I knew them, it's like the union rep who was mad at me for something. And like we had a relationship, maybe not a good one, but like I knew the person. This was a stranger, and it was
and living in the Bible Belt of California as we do, I guarantee you on Saturday night, that guy called you the C word. And then Sunday morning, he was in the pews clapping and amening and praising God and receiving attaboys from God for being such a horrible, condemning Christian.
It was really intense. And again, it shook me for like 24 hours. I was like genuinely frightened.
Militant trans woman on my TikTok feed says, I've gotten those same strange looks and comments. They're just jealous of you being your true self. And I really do believe that. And we've been watching videos by Alok Vyad Menon that, Alok says, trans people are free. They're free. The people who hate them and want to pass laws against them are not. And by being free and saying, I'm going to wear high-heeled shoes, whether you like it or not. Hopefully, our goal is to provide a challenge to people to say, if you identify as a man, that's not a binary choice. There are a million infinite combinations of what a man can be. If your dad is telling you a man has to be John Wayne and chill and stoic and ready to kill with his bare hands, that's not necessarily all of the definition of a man. There are a million other combinations. And I just think if in this world we could celebrate who everybody is, then we wouldn't have people walking by the table saying, you're a C word.
Yeah.
because you scare me, is what
Yeah.
the bottom line is. And I've been told by media, et cetera, to be scared about you.
Well, listen, that was a little bit of a, we weren't planning on sharing that story because it was kind of just like something that
It's a good one though.
is a good one. But I have to tell you this. I am not personally yet, I'm not looking to grandstand about things. You know, I'm just not in that space. When it comes to you and your journey and, you know, our relationship. To me, it's just like, we give us a minute, you know? And so I don't, yeah, we didn't plan on sharing that, but it does tie to something for me that, you know, looking at the national landscape and what's happened in this last 5 days and all of that, it is really clear to me that there are kind of two outlooks on life. And one is like adventurous and freeing and really giving, you know, like really making room for individuals to like be themselves. And then there is this other space, which is so dominated by religious culture. It's driven, animated, supported, motivated, etc., by religious culture. And boy, it's playing out on the national political spectrum like I've never seen before. You know, it's just so very extreme.
It's what the beauty of 1946, the movie is my understanding of homosexuality in much of my Christian life, from where my heart was, is like, I'm not going to hate gay people. I don't want them to be thrown out of a restaurant. I don't want them to be dragged behind a pickup truck. I don't want us to disregard AIDS and just say, oh, it's that gay man's disease and maybe God's just trying to kill them all off. Mine always was, they're human beings who deserve to be loved like everybody else. But there was always this little thing in the back of my mind, but also it would cost me in my pastorate if they led a small group or were on my board, or, you know, there was we called it Class B Christianity. We loved gay people filling the seats on a Sunday morning, but they were Class B citizens. They couldn't kiss each other and put their arms around each other and all those things. And getting all of that unmoored and not saying, but the Bible. That's what you always hear. Yeah, I love gay people, but the Bible is clear.
Yeah.
And I want to say
exactly.
The Bible is clearly not what you've been taught that it is. It is not a homophobic book.
Yeah.
And I think if we could get that message to people, like, we could change the response a little bit.
Do you know, do you think it's growing up evangelical that, like, do you know how many times I rehearsed in my head, if Jesus showed up right in front of me, you know, or somebody put a gun to my head and said, will you confess Christ? You know, like, if you confess Christ, I'm going to shoot you. Would I be willing to do it? And that, like, I was always growing up, like, assessing, like, am I Christian enough? Am I a believer enough? And one of the things is, like, in that gnawing feeling in the back of your head, it's like, okay, but, you know, love gay people. And also, like, you know, if I really had a gun to my head, I'd have to say, but the Bible says, right? Like,
Yeah.
That's the kind of, you know, gnawing little thing you've got in your mind. That's absolutely, even though most of my formative years in evangelicalism were spent in non-denominational, kind of more free kinds of environments, that is still absolutely the way I felt. So all this brings me to something that happened to me at 2:35 a.m. when I woke up, because it was so damn hot upstairs in our house. Even though I had an air conditioning on, it was 80 degrees. And, you know, I'm a middle-aged woman and I wake up. And I can't go back to sleep. So I grab my phone, which is what you're not supposed to do, because, you know, it stimulates your mind, but I do it anyway. And I was flipping through something, and this little news clip comes up of Vice President Harris giving a speech yesterday. And in her speech, she's in Milwaukee, and in her speech, she, you know, she's laying out, there's two visions of America, this one. And she makes the point where, you know, we're not going back. And this is what happened at 2:35 a.m. I'm watching this clip, and the whole crowd, 3,500 people in this stadium, not going back. They start chanting, not going back. And this for me was not as much about Vice President Harris as it was imagining 3,500 people in alignment saying, like, we want a different future, and all means all, and we don't want to be exclusive to people in our communities, et cetera, and not going to go back to that day when we could do that. And we did do that in our country. I started crying in the bed at 2:35 in the morning. It was so moving and inspiring. So
the cities we picked on this tour, Rocky Ruggiero, the director of 1946, the movie, painstakingly went across, looking across the southern United States, finding the cities where they have the highest prevalence of book bans, where they have the highest prevalence of anti-LGBTQ plus legislation that's been proposed, where they've had incidents of queer harm. So we're trying to pick the belly of the belly, to go in to the worst of the worst place. And we've talked to people from Florida and Alabama, and they're like, oh my God, we need you to come so much. Because I believe, and I don't think it's overly dramatic, when a presidential candidate says those people coming across the border are rapists and murderers, and oh look, here was a murder by one of them, that justifies that we should hate all of them. That's not a Christian position. That's a fear-filled, fear-based, self-sustaining, unnuanced view of people. By far, per capita, more crimes are committed by American citizens than non-American citizens of the country. It's not even a close comparison. And then I'll have people say, well, they have more of a right to commit crime than those immigrants, which is an ironic statement. When we say trans women are pedophiles trying to get into women's restrooms to get children, you're putting trans women at harm. At the very least, trans people have to try to avoid using the bathroom as much as possible out of fear of what will happen to them in the bathroom. So they get UTI infections and things quite often because they're afraid to go to the bathroom. It's a very vulnerable place. And I just keep asking people, is this who we want to be? Like, statistically, it is statistically insignificant of the number of times a trans woman has harmed a child in a women's bathroom. It simply does not happen in America. Now, take the statistics of white men attacking children in a men's bathroom. The number is exponentially higher. So we're not making, like you say, data-based decisions. We're making fear-based decisions. We're making propaganda-based decisions. We're making politicized decisions where a political group, and particularly led by one orange-haired man, to say, I can use these people as a foil, just as another culture used Jewish people as a foil, or many others have used Jewish foils through the years. What's amazing is we keep falling for it. History keeps repeating itself again and again. And it's time for us to say no more. So I know I've been going on, but I'll finish with this. So I feel like I have to stand up and do what I can to add my voice to say, Christians, you're so wrong. You couldn't be more wrong in your political stances, and to put that voice out there loudly. Many of you out there might well do the same if your life afforded that opportunity. I'm blessed to be in a place with our children out of the house, Ashley with a great job, that I can do this. And you may not be able to, but let me ask you then, let me be a proxy for you. And through that, I could use your help through GoFundMe, through subscriptions on my website, through buying my merchandise, buying my books, all the things that can help bring income in this time. And I hope you'll consider that it's worthwhile to say, okay, I can't go on this trip, but Paul's going and I want to be a part of it. And this is how I'm going to be a part of being on the right side of history.
And we plan on still doing Wednesday night lives. And so we'll be keeping up with your journey, technology and bandwidth permitting, as you go. So do definitely, if you haven't yet, if you're just seeing this for the first time, go sign up, subscribe you can go to evangelicalish.com and subscribe. You can also sign up there for support, $4.99 a month, $15.99 a month. That would be an amazing way to support. And also your website directly, unconventional Pastor Paul, pastor-paul.com.
Yeah. So wonderful. Debbie Rude signed up as a subscriber this week.
Oh, nice.
Some friends of ours, Jeff and Dee Barnes, gave a very generous gift. Linda Hebert signed up. I was going to see if I have some other names here. I can't read what I wrote. Sherry. I think we saw Sherry and Sherry Rapley.
Sherry Rapley is here with us tonight. Yeah.
She gave a gift. Mark Harris, Amy. Gosh, I can't read my own writing. Amy somebody. Pete Herzog. Gave a gift and signed up for Reconstruction U self-guided curriculum. And cool. Amber Bettis gave a gift and she purchased an autographed copy of my novel, which we'll be sending out to her shortly. So thank you all. Join in, jump in and help.
So we are already like 42 minutes in and we had a bit of a game plan, and then Paul went to the dentist and got Valium, and it's been a little bit high on drugs. And
I'm still feeling pretty good on these drugs. These are some good drugs.
Exactly. But I think what Paul and I like to do is use this time every week to spend a little bit of time reflecting on like, okay, what is the world around us? And what is deconstruction? What is the evidence that it's needed? And we focus a bit on things outside of our own lives. And that's probably a good way to frame us talking about, Paul, the journey that you're about to go on, et cetera. Your
Did anything interesting happen in the world this week?
Well, I was bringing it up and telling you I was crying at 2:35 in the morning because people are enthusiastic about Vice President Harris, and you didn't really bite on that. So that was my hint.
That was your transition attempt?
That was my segue.
Well, I went to the commercial of Give and help fund my trip. But yes, I appreciate that. For me, this week was when we had the debate that will ever live as the debate. I all of a sudden, I not only got super depressed, but super afraid. I guess it hadn't been real to me before. I kept thinking some adult's going to stand up and say, come on, no way Donald Trump can be president again. Come on, children, wake up. This is nuts. Nobody wants this guy to be president. Let's not kid ourselves. And then after the debate, I hit a new low of like, he really is going to be president. And he really is going to try to do all the things the Heritage Foundation and Project 2025 are trying to do. He will want to do that because they all benefit him, and he cares about nothing that doesn't benefit him. I see somebody here say Trump is going to help a lot of people. Well, he does have a lot of friends, rich friends that he likes to try to help make richer. But the American citizen, he cares nothing about.
Let me say, to the extent that he is a mobilizing force for Americans to evaluate society and choose again democratic principles, I would agree. Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you, former President Trump. I don't think he's helpful in the way he governs and the way all of the ways he misuses and abuses his power, the lying, the blah, 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 blah. But like, I actually could see, people galvanizing and saying, in my lifetime, we've not had to dig deep and choose democracy. And if we choose democracy again, it's going to set our nation up for the next, hopefully 50, 75 years. That can be a very good thing.
Yeah, it is. The blessing of the Trump season is it's a time to choose. Am I on this horrible side of history? Because there's a big mob wearing red hats going at it. By the way, like, quick side road is a lot of people have been using a passage from Leviticus after the shooting of blood being on the right ear and that denoting priesthood. And I find that really fascinating because you can also go to Revelation 13 where it says, and the Antichrist suffered a head wound many felt would be fatal, yet the Antichrist stood up after the head wound and began to shout things that were pompous and blasphemous and profane. So
I did not realize that was in the Bible. That's
so
cray
we could choose that either.
Yeah, pick your passage, right?
Trump
That's
is
crazy.
a priest blessed by God, or he's
Or
the
the
Antichrist who
That
came back from a
basically
fatal
sums
head
it all
wound.
up. That sums it all up. But you were saying the debate left you pretty hopeless, which, by the way, I remember in a college history class, there was so much talk about the Nixon-Kennedy debate. And that was like this defining moment because it was the first time, the first presidential, like people had enough TVs, like a lot of people watched it. And Nixon was like prepared and technical, and JFK like spent the day in the sun and like looked super hot, and so he won. And like, so if you think about like that's always been like the famous presidential debate that our generation would be. Now it's going to be the debate of 2024. So we've just lived through that.
Yeah. So let's see. Gentleman Jesus Knight says, Project 2025, get your head out of the gutter. He has denied that multiple times. Oh, and one thing we know, when Trump says something, it is absolutely true.
Exactly.
It must be believed because the man has never told a lie to suit himself ever. What a shocker that he would say. And he literally said, I've never heard of Heritage of Project and then, 2025.
All his people are like, you know, the RNC platform people are all from Project 2025. So
and let me help you out, gentlemen. Jesus Knight. When Donald Trump chose Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett to be on the Supreme Court, who gave him those names? The Heritage Foundation. They gave him a list of judges. And to get their support, they said, these are the judges you're going to have to choose from to the Supreme Court. And he guaranteed them they would. And he did. So don't sit here and tell me Trump doesn't know anything about Project 2025. Half of the people working on it are from his cabinet. And the only people from his cabinet aren't working are the other 90% who say they won't vote for the man. So let's not kid ourselves here with your little.
I feel like we all need to go watch the episode of Seinfeld where George Costanza declares at opposite day. And he did like whatever was his natural instinct. He did the opposite. And he was like this wildly successful person that day. So yeah, living with the Trump projection is just like do George Costanza opposite day. And that's the way I think about it. Okay.
Well, anyway, let's Trump saying, I got rid of Roe v. Wade. And I really stand for women's rights.
Yeah. And, I don't, state's choice. That's how it should be. Anyway, okay. I'm feeling like negative thinking so much about this. Let's go back to the pivot and the feeling depressed, watch the debate, hopeless, and then feeling encouraged.
Now. I was stunned at how depressed I felt after the debate because I'm not a Joe Biden worshiper. But I am very worried about Trump. I couldn't believe how depressed I was after that debate and continually getting more depressed when I heard Joe Biden, who, whatever you think about him, I've always thought he cares about people. He's a good man. But then when he was talking about the fake media and fake polls and stuff, I'm like, how is this any different than what Trump does? So when finally it came around and he stepped aside, and there became what the Republicans wanted to say, it's going to be chaos, it's going to be chaos. And that chaos turned out to be, and it's not totally done yet, but it turned out to be a real coalescing around VP Harris, who, again, if I were to choose one person out of the world I wanted to run for president, it wouldn't be her. But when I saw the excitement she brought, just inside of me, I was stunned, like, yes, I don't have a choice between two 80-year-old men who still think, 1952 was the greatest moment in American history. And now we can start looking forward. And I was really bummed because I was like, thank God we finally have a Gen X president. And then somebody told me, no, she's not Gen X. She was born in 64, which is the last year of Boomer. But somebody told me this week that the Boomer era is considered to end in September of 1964. And she was born in October. So she is like the oldest Xer.
Boy, you are really clinging to that.
I am so excited. I don't want to have a Boomer. I don't think we should have a Boomer president ever again. God bless you, boomers. You've done your damage. Move along. I'm ready for a non-boomer president.
Is President Biden, is he boomer? Is he like a really old boomer, or is he World War II generation? That's embarrassing that I don't know. But like, he's...
it's a good question, because I did hear somebody say Trump is like right up at the top of the oldest boomer you can be. So Biden may be
a young World War II. But appreciating the comments about what a hero President Biden is. And, it's so rare these days to see sacrificial leadership in political ranks. It's almost unheard of. And boy, oh boy, does it make his voice booming and compelling. His voice is now the most compelling and the one that will have the greatest impact on people's hearts and minds, because he's made a sacrifice. He is not serving himself. He's stepping aside, and God, I loved it. That just was so meaningful to me.
I was listening to a podcast today where they said he's going to get a 10-minute standing ovation at least at the Democratic National Convention.
I hope so. All right, we only have a few minutes left. It's 8 minutes or so ish.
Gosh, how did that go so fast?
8 minutes ish for ish. So wanted to spend a little bit of time on just personal reflections, as I started to say about, 45 minutes ago, and have not been able to finish my point. We'd like to spend time on our shows here weekly, first looking at kind of what's going on around us, Christian nationalism, what's going on that needs to be deconstructed, etc. But we are also really committed to sharing our own personal reflections, because we don't want to just be like the assholes who are talking about how everybody else is jerky or whatever. Like, we are in learning mode all the time at this stage of our lives. And so we wanted to share our own personal reflections. And then we're going to close out on what are you reading or what are you ruminating on this week? So that's for both of us. So let's start with you, Paul. What are your deep thoughts, your personal reflections this week?
Well, my deep reflections have been, do I want to do this? Would I walk across Selma Bridge and let Bull Connor's men beat the shit out of me? That's been a major part of my thought process this week in deciding, though it cost me, this is where we are. This is the time in history that the mob is going the wrong way in our country. And we can't afford to not have people standing up and saying, no, the mob is wrong. And so that's been my real thoughts. And do you want to say anything about that, or you want me to go on to what's been inspiring me this week?
Well, I'll chime in. In all candor, I would say this last week has probably not been a week of deep reflections or, personal inspiration. I think I've been in grinder mode and just kind of managing through life this last week. Except for I see a few little rays of light in my otherwise just kind of congested, heads down week. And those rays of light are just reminders of connections with my loved ones. So my husband, our 2 kids, friends, and, I don't know, I spent a lot of time in my life striving and working and pushing and I just do a bunch of community development work in my region, constantly trying to raise money, constantly trying to get things done. I'm an achiever personality. And I had some setbacks this week on my professional life. And so I was feeling pretty downcast about it. And the thing that brought me back to life, it was like water on a dry sponge, was literally just reflecting on and holding dear 3 or 4 people in my life, my loved ones. That's literally everything at the end of my life. That's the only thing I want to care about. So I think that was a good reminder of kind of get over yourself and the things you think are important, and just allow yourself to feel connected to your loved ones. And that was really kind of my inspiration for the week.
That's good. I tend to have a sense on a regular basis of good things don't happen to me. And I think it's part of why I'm timid to ask for money or anything like that. And so I've just had a few people inspire me to like, hey, you are doing something worthwhile. Put it out there. Let people have a chance to support you. So I put the GoFundMe link onto to the YouTube and Facebook feeds. I would love for you to help. And also it'll be in my Linktree bio. But the other thing that's really been inspiring me this week is a speaker, comedian known as Alak Vyed Menon. And I don't know if everybody's heard of him. I'm trying to see if I can share something here. Whoops, excuse me. And you just have to see Alok to understand who they are. That's Alok. And Alok is a speaker, comedian, author, wrote a book, Beyond the Gender Binary. His parents immigrated from Southeast India to the US. And when people ask Alok, what are you? He will say, I am an amazing creation of the universe. I am a work of art by creation. So, and for those of you who are on audio, you're missing these pictures of Alok, who is a person that usually has a very full beard, very, Southeast Indian looking. He is an American citizen born here. They are, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say he, they are. Usually they have heavy makeup, heavy beard, heavy lipstick, and then are wearing some of the most creative, outlandish outfits you can imagine.
Very colorful. If you're not seeing the pictures, you should definitely go check out Alok.
Very colorful, high heels. And what I love about Alok is the message is, why do you hate me for wearing clothes like this? Well, the reason you hate me for wearing clothes like this is because we live in a society that claims to be free, but nobody is free. You are required to match the air quote norms of society. And if you don't match those norms, you are a danger to people around you. And thus, people with little self-identity, like the person in the restaurant with us the other night, must stand against the free person. But Alok, and what I want to do in following in my own journey of wanting to hug high heels, which is a whole new development that I've been able to, pun intended, embrace in my life, is to say, I don't want somebody to say I'm special because I wear clothing that doesn't, I'm special or horrific for wearing clothing that doesn't fit the norm. I want people to be able to say, oh, wow, I wonder if I could wear clothes that I really like rather than the ones I've been told I'm supposed to like all my life. Why can't I be free? And I think the right-wing movement is built upon the platform of freedom, though they scream it all the time. Freedom is dangerous. If you're not teaching what we're telling you to teach with the Bible in the classroom and the 10 Commandments on the wall and constraining everything with Christianity, then we're in trouble. And I say it is so much the opposite. That once I learned to be free, to dress and present and love in the way my system needs to love, I give my family, I give people around me, I give you a chance to decide to be free. So that's the mindset that's got to shift in our country, I think.
So I would say that you should take dental drugs more often, because I feel like you've been very poetic tonight. And also, it's I shouldn't make light of it because it is a significant day. And so so we're with you on this journey. And today, getting your teeth worked on was like a really big deal. It was a big step forward for you to want to take care of your body and deal with with something that has been just a really big problem in your life. And it's like taking care of you is an important thing for you that you're learning at this stage. So anyway, thanks for sharing all that.
And if I could tell that just very, very briefly, I got braces in 8th grade. My teeth had been messed up from falling down a set of stairs when I was younger and some other things. So we got braces. We were living in Ohio. My father was pastoring this very big church. And then just like all of a sudden he comes home from work one day and says, we're moving. And 2 weeks later, we were gone, which is a really unusual circumstance. But in the meantime, it's like, okay, we've got to go to the orthodontist and get this orthodontia work taken off. Maybe they feared we wouldn't have the money to do it in what was coming. And so we never attended to my teeth again. So not only did the orthodontia not help my teeth get better, but back in those days, they thought a great idea to take out 4 permanent teeth. And so my teeth have been really bad ever since. It's always been a hard thing. And I'm now learning, even at 58 years old, it's really important to take care of the things that matter to us as we were able to do so. And so I was wrestling with, I only have 25 more years to live. What do I care about fixing my teeth? But now doing this is like, oh, we care about ourselves. That's important. And I believe we'll take that with us past life into something new. And so this is what I'm doing. And I hope I have the hearts of the people with me.
Well, and also to have some irreverent comedy here as I verify this live. As you're a therapist, my therapist, all the therapists say, like, all you can do is worry about your own freedom. And your freedom helps other people walk into their freedom. So, those are the baby steps that you're taking. It reminds me of a quote from my favorite comedian, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, playing the vice president in the TV show Veep. She famously says, freedom isn't meedum, it's weedum. we will close on freedom is weedum, and let everybody get back to their evenings. And
can I just add that I did hear a Veep clip today. Somebody was talking about the possibility of VP Harris choosing, doubling down on Trump's weak point and having Gretchen Whitmer be her VP. And they played a clip from Veep where somebody suggested a female VP for Selena Meyer's run for president. And she was just like, 2 women? Oh, baby, America's not ready for that shit yet.
She, they're one of my favorite episodes. Like, we could do a whole podcast on how Veep got me through the Great Recession. I literally consume every word. It's the most hilarious stuff. There's a moment where she turns to a female, another female who's running for president, and she says, "Stop your whining and man up." And the whole nation, like, that's right, everybody just needs to man up. So then she gets a whole big bump in her campaign, and she's talking to her campaign staff about it. And they're like, it's universal. Everyone loves man up. She's like, yeah, men hate women and women hate women. So it's perfect. We just got to tell everybody to man up. So anyway, yes, it's like when art becomes like real life, kind of funny.
Yes. And there is a meme out now that The Simpsons did predict Kamala Harris as president. You have to check that out.
Oh my gosh.
And also, let me show one more thing.
Okay.
You won't be able to see this on TikTok. We have swag.
Hey.
So you won't be able to see it on TikTok, but God is not mad at you t-shirt right there. I love that look.
By the way, this is the one that I have ordered because it is my favorite. So okay. I will soon be sporting it on our ish shows.
So you can see we have shirts that say God loves trans people, presidents, immigrants, and even Christians, shockingly enough. And so you can get this on coffee mugs, on t-shirts. We have the religious right, religiously wrong. I just think these are so cool. I want everybody to be wearing them all over the place because they are super, super cool. Did we have one more saying? God is not mad at you, religious right, religiously wrong. I guess that's it. Oh, here's one. Hey, evangelicals, love is not a 4-letter word.
And so this is on the Ish website and the Unconventional Pastor Paul website.
Yeah, we're integrating everything between the two sites. So if you go to evangelicalish.com, it'll lead you to how you could rep with some really cool clothes.
There you go. Order it now. And if you're on the route for the 1946 road trip, you can get your t-shirt in time to show up at the event and let everybody know that you're a supporter of Ish and Unconventional Pastor Paul. All right, that's it. We gotta wrap and gotta go. All right, y'all. Have a great week.
Okay, go to GoFundMe, go to our websites, check out all the stuff, and be a part of history. All right, Facebook, YouTube, love you all. We'll